Evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel. And a Star Trek stream is here. It is Saturday, and we are talking about the cast and crew of Deep Space Nine. The way we've been doing it is we've started from the top at command and gone down to the medical officer. And joining me today are the usual friends: the One-Ton Hammer,
Hello.
Irate Prostate,
Howdy, people.
Skeptalk,
Bonjour.
and special guest, Functional.
Reporting for duty.
Hey, Functional.
Hi, guys.
Pleasure, man. Nice to
Nice
meet
to
you.
see you, Functional.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Two
I-
of you haven't met him.
Right, exactly. So, greetings.
Not
You've been on the Minion stream, haven't you?
Shakes hand.
Yes,
Yeah,
Functional.
that's where I recognized you from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pop around the community. I'm sure we've passed in Discord and other streams.
Sure.
Yes.
Or
Like,
Danforth.
like an STD. We all pass around between each other and shit.
Thanks for that.
Just keeping it in
Yeah, I
the
was
fan.
gonna say. Thanks, Irate.
We're not going to talk about Michael Burnham.
It's a
No.
class stream today.
Yeah, always classy. Always classy here on the Star Trek stream. So today we're going to talk about the crew of Deep Space Nine. And of course, we're going to start at the top, at the command, and we will probably be breaking down I would say one of the most complicated captains or commanders, because he doesn't become a captain for a few seasons. But I would argue probably one of the most complicated commanding officers in the series, like in the 4 or 5 series that we talk about. He's probably the most complicated guy, I would argue. Because we've got his battle, like he survived the battle of Wolf 359. He became a single father. He was basically thrust into a command that he didn't want. It's because most of the other, well, all of the other captains wanted their posts, if you think about it, right? Kirk wanted Cat to be captain,
Desperately.
youngest captain in Starfleet.
Desperately, yeah. I just was going to say that.
Picard, he was happy to get command of the Enterprise.
Especially after his failure with the Stargazer.
Stargazer, yep.
Yeah.
Janeway was, an up-and-coming ambitious captain, and, this was, a mission that she, she wanted to go get Tuvok back.
She was a pushy broad, yeah.
Reminds me of Shelby a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And and Archer was, let's prove the Vulcans wrong. Let's go out there and explore.
And
Right?
fulfill his father's dream, yeah.
Yeah. Cisco was like, I don't want to command this fucking space station. I don't want to be here. I especially don't want to be a god. What?
He didn't even want to be in Starfleet after what happened at Wolf 359.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was barely content to sit at Utopia Planitia. Or was it Utopia Planitia that he was stationed at, I think? I can't remember. He was stationed at a base. I know that. Like a port base. or a
Yeah, I'm pretty
shipyard.
sure it was one of the ones in Sol.
And he was barely content doing that. Like, he was ready to retire and go to Earth. And so this, for a commander, like, he has a lot of variables to him. And Avery Brooks just fantastically plays him.
Made to play that role.
Oh, yeah. And again, we keep pointing this out. We keep pointing this out over and over again. Star Trek, once again, manages to, be social justice before it was cool and didn't shove it down your throat. We have a black commander. but nobody cares about it, right? Because it doesn't matter.
It wasn't a thing, man.
But
He did-
now, you know,
He didn't feel black, if you know what I mean.
No.
He didn't feel black. What I mean is, it
I
didn't
never
feel like
felt
they
him.
were making the point that, look, a black man in command. You know.
Yeah, when Star Trek does woke stuff, they don't until Discovery. They didn't push it in your face.
yeah.
No,
You're right.
And they were doing it way ahead of the time.
It was just a matter of course. It's a different thing to say, "Hey, look, black guy. See, everyone, there's a black guy. You notice this black guy here? Look at this black guy." As opposed to, "Here's a new captain. Oh yeah, he's black. So what?"
Exactly right, Ian.
And there's only one point where that actually raises in the show
And
when they're
it's
talking
done
about Vix.
brilliantly.
And it's done very seamlessly, and it's not about him, it's about the history of humanity in that time period in which they're visiting. He kind of takes a little issue with it, but then it's moved past.
Yeah.
Let me ask.
Because Cassidy's like, hey, come on, it's...
Let me
You know
ask
what
you
I
a
mean?
question, Blind Press.
Hmm.
Could you make this show with a black captain and write that part that understate his blackness that way today?
No,
No.
I don't think you could.
absolutely not.
No,
Even the
it's-
writing, the whatchamacallit, the promo for the series would plaster all over the place. Anyway, look at the new Star Trek. It's got a black captain.
Starfleet's
You know, it
black
wouldn't even have to
captain.
be the actor who did it or the writing that did it. It would be the promo before you even got on the air.
Yeah.
He's black. He's victimized. He's trans. He's captain of a starship.
He's so oppressed.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a single dad.
Oh, there you go.
He's blind.
They already did that with Geordi.
And he's
Yeah.
on crutches and spikes. And... Those were Blind Press.
And it's, but I mean, and he's, the way his character arced, the writing of Cisco was just as good as the portrayal of Cisco. When you get those hand in hand, you get an awesome character.
You're not wrong.
And the funny thing is, I used to really not like Cisco.
Why?
Because he committed the mortal sin of not liking Picard.
Oh.
For a long time, I could not get past that.
So the enemy of my friend is my enemy.
Pretty much.
You hit me. Picard never hit me. I'm not Picard.
Yeah, exactly. But when I rewatched the series and took into account what he saw of Picard when he saw it, like, because he saw Locutus. He dealt with Locutus during the death of his wife. So, basically, he blames Picard for the death of his wife, because Picard, not only was Picard Locutus, but Picard is a reminder, as his survival, he's a reminder of the Borg. So he looks at Picard and he sees the Borg that killed his wife. And he can't get past it. And once you put that into perspective, you can kind of understand why he's so insubordinate, why he's downright nasty to him in the series premiere.
I gotta wonder how many times Picard ran into that. Because there's got to be a lot
that's
of
a good
people
point.
who hate him from that and still blame him.
That's a
Because
very good point.
Obviously still exists in their century.
Well, because what's her face in the Drumhead?
Satie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She threw it in his face.
Yeah.
He also sees someone who was too weak to fight the Borg from dominating him, says Skrill and Pirate Pete. That's a good point. Because Cisco, I don't think... What you don't really understand if you haven't been assimilated, right? you just think we'll just fight it, right? It's you don't get what it means to have a cortical implant shoved into your skull.
Yeah.
Your brain is literally being taken over, and it's,
to have your entire personality wiped and
Yeah.
literally become just a functioning drone.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's akin to me trying to explain to people what it's like to see absolutely nothing. You can't imagine not having your own personality. The minute that is presented to you, you fight that instinctively. You fight that idea instinctively. So it's not something you can understand if you haven't been through it. But I think that between the writing of Cisco's character, of him going from this basically your typical hero, your hero that doesn't want to be a hero. You know what I mean?
The reluctant hero.
The
trope,
reluctant hero who ends up being the best person that you could possibly want for the job. And that ends up being Cisco.
And that
Sorry, Scap?
and that character evolves into the character who just absolutely is amazing in episodes like in The Pale Moonlight. I just want to get that episode out there. That's by far my favorite episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And just the introspection and intelligence that Cisco shows. I just love that character. I really, truly do.
And the fact that they took that sort of noir storytelling from Odo's sort of air around that character, translated it into Cisco, and for Brooks to pull that off together with the brilliant writing, the brilliant supporting characters, amazing. I think that episode is the pinnacle of Deep Space Nine.
Oh,
I quite agree with you. It is absolutely, but it in fact, that is one of my favorite Trek episodes ever.
Mm. And it really hits on the note that DS9 is so very different from all the other Treks because it deals with non-Federation life.
Yes.
They're not on a Federation ship. They're not on a Federation planet. They're not living with Federation citizens. They're living with Bajorans and Klingons and Romulans and
the whole Bajoran subplot is just
Ferengi.
tremendous.
Maybe that's the reason I never took to it.
Because
That's
there's
the reason why I
Ferengi.
don't. Because it's not Federation enough. Maybe that's
I
a
was
big
going to
piece
say
of-
why, because there's Ferengi in it.
Well,
that too,
Federation is a Cardassian, aesthetic, right? It's their technology. So it's, and I love the way that stuff looked. I thought it was nifty designs. I love it. I love the colors that they used. But when it comes to Cisco's character, I honestly think he's one of the most developed characters out of the whole universe.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I hate to do this, man, but I got to be the wet blanket of the group. You guys have heard me talk about Cisco before, so you know where I'm coming from.
Yes.
I'm just not a fan, and maybe it's because I watch so much Spencer for Hire. But whenever I see Cisco, I see Hawk. It's so much to the point that in the second season, he reconfigures his face to look exactly like Hawk because that's how he is in real life.
It's the problem I have with Enterprise then.
Yeah, he didn't have the Hawk look in the first episode. He had hair, he didn't have the facial hair, all that kind of stuff, and he didn't remind me so much. And I was able to okay, well, yeah, it's Hawk playing Cisco. Okay, I get it. But when he actually And he, that was a bone of contention for his contract. He went to the people and said, "Look, I want to shave my head," and they were like, "But," and he's like, "Or I'm walking," and they're like, "Okay." So I mean, he wanted it bad. Have you ever seen any interviews done with Avery Brooks?
No.
Anybody? No.
I don't remember if I have. I may have, but I watch a lot of that kind of stuff. I can't remember.
You've seen an interview, Functional?
Yeah, he's a bit of a diva. He's a bit of a prick.
And
a little bit out there.
Really?
Not very linear. He's a space cadet.
Yes. He's at points you're kind of wondering if he's all there.
I don't think he is.
Oh,
He's an actor, man.
He's an actor and he plays the part. I mean, he's given the role and he reads the lines and all that kind of stuff. But that interview he did for the captain's show, where they just went and visited all the captains, and he was sitting behind his piano talking. It was like, dude, you should be in a mental institution.
Scribe Light says Avery Brooks is functionally insane.
There you go. Hey,
I love him and I love the character, but I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Lita is best crew, says Scribe.
You should when you get a chance after the show, or sometimes as soon as you can, go out and YouTube and look for what was it, an interview with the captains or something like that. Isn't it the captain from the Enterprise? From Enterprise who goes
I think it was Scott Bakula, yeah, and it was just called The Captains.
Was it called just the captains? Okay,
I think so. Yeah,
yeah, but he interviews all of the captains, so it's really interesting to see Shatner and not Kirk, and and from the perspective of real people at their house, and you get to meet the people that they live with and all that kind of stuff. You get to see behind the scenes. It's very personal, and you'll be shocked at it. Really,
table.
It's something. It's a complete gear shift when he hits Avery Brooks. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, complete juxtaposition from the other actors who played the captains.
Yeah,
completely.
But really, it's interesting. You get a chance. So yeah, that's all the Cisco bashing I'm going to do. It's just
I'm curious as to what does his like daily routine look like? I mean,
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not in a nursing home. He does a great job on the show. I guess when you're handing the lines and you just read them and do the acting, you can look normal.
Yeah. But if you get off script, holy crap! Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Right, but and you said you like the aesthetics of the space station. What would you think would be better aesthetics if you had to pick a different? Who do you think would be better than the Cardassians as far as aesthetics? In other words, a Ferengi station, a Romulan station. What would be better?
How do you mean better? Better how?
Well, there's a couple of things with the space station. First of all, it seems like it's just a piece of crap all the way around. They're constantly fixing stuff and nothing works, and it's just bad technology, I guess.
No. Hang on a second. I've got to say something.
I built a model, man.
Having served aboard a U.S. Navy ship, there's a lot of good technology aboard a Navy ship. And there is a lot of really ruggedized, amazing machinery and all kinds of complicated procedures that you have to go through. The combination of complex operational requirements and the complicated things that people have to do to accomplish those using complicated technology and machines that are mechanically, electronically, or just conceptually complicated always leads to things breaking down. And one of the biggest departments aboard a ship is headed by an officer who is probably the third or fourth most powerful in terms of institutional power aboard the ship, called the damage control assistant. The DCA is in charge of fixing shit. Anything that goes wrong on the ship, it's his department's responsibility to fix it. And there is so much stuff aboard a ship that has to work and has to work all the time, that he and his crew are constantly busy. I actually thought that was one of the most realistic aspects of the space station, and one of the least realistic aspects of things like TNG. Shit never broke, and I was just like,
Except the holodeck.
but like the engines. I'm serious.
No, I know
you
what you mean. I know what you
when
mean.
when you're at sea, you'll be cruising along, and all of a sudden, some part of one of the boilers will go out, and that's a big deal. You're at sea. There's nobody to help you. You fix that shit, and that happens more often than ever is reported. You have to have I think you have to have had that experience or been around that to understand that. And so to me, as having served aboard, it wasn't a spaceship, but it was a place that is isolated and reliant on the complicated technology that you have on board to get to where you need to go. I understood that completely and thought it was wonderful.
Well, yeah, see, that kind of I feel that kind of supports my argument, though, is that the Federation technology is so good that it rarely breaks, and when it does, it's easy to fix. That's how much better it is.
But Hammer, they even Miles even mentions this, how it's Federation, Cardassian, and Bajoran technology all trying to work
Together.
That are more or less like the Bajorans adapted their technology a little bit to interface with the Cardassians, given the occupation. But Federation technology and Cardassian technology were so alien to one another that they didn't work together.
Yeah. That's even illustrated.
Kind of like I was going to say it's just like American and Russian shit.
It's
rockets.
Yeah. It's and that point functional is actually illustrated very well in the episode in Voyager called Dreadnought, when B'Elanna gets the Maquis program she wrote, which was based off of Federation programming, to argue with the Cardassian programming in the missile, and they basically void each other out, and the missile just malfunctions to the point where it can't do anything and it explodes. That's basically why, because Miles is constantly trying to, because they're basically cannibalizing the station, is what they're doing. Because Miles is always putting Federation stuff into their Cardassian, like it's taking the Cardassian stuff out.
So the weakness is not the Cardassian stuff to begin with. The weakness is the fact that you have to get this amalgamation of different technologies to work with each other.
It's the
and when something Cardassian breaks down, they can't just replicate new systems. They have to then supplement with Federation technology.
They
and
basically retrofit the system.
A little thrown away line. It wasn't until the end of I want to say season 2, half the station wasn't even accessible. It was all the mining operations that they're cleaning out. They're stripping down, and I forget the name of the episode, but where they were in the ore processing unit, Miles, Cisco, and Jake, and Ducat has to come and save the day. You can see why they sort of quarantined those areas, because they just weren't safe. There was still too much unknown Cardassian tech and traps and stuff that they were still almost into season 3 doing away with. And it isn't until about midway season, or 2/3 into about season 3, that you see that the system has somewhat been restored to a fully functional station.
Yeah.
I get really into all the technical lore and these little throwaway lines that I'm like, okay, that makes sense now.
Was there anything else about Cisco that we wanted to mention, or should we move on to my least favorite first officer?
It was a little cheesy, but I really, really, really loved his little singing bit at the end of season 7.
Yeah.
I also do have some things I do like about Cisco. I think the whole way his portrayal is set with his son. I think he plays that extremely well. Whenever he interacts with that actor, I can't remember.
Sirach Lofton.
Right. Whenever he interacts with him, it doesn't seem to me like it's acting. It seems very genuine, very normal. It just seems natural. So and you have to be a good actor to be able to do that. So that's just one of. I can sit here and think of a few, but that's probably the most complimentary thing about his acting and the part is that he plays a good father very
He
well.
does.
And especially having Jake go through basically adolescence in the
Right.
middle of a war that he is basically in charge of.
Yeah.
Fantastic interaction between the two.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Functional. When I heard the singing, I'm like, damn, he can sing. He's a good singer. I that made me smile.
And, knowing what I know about Avery Brooks, I can kind of see him going to the producers going, I need to have a singing moment in the show, being the diva that he is.
Mm.
But,
Yeah.
it was cool. Wasn't very fitting with the show, but it was cool. Still showed a part of Cisco being human, even though he's 10 different things. He's the emissary, he's the commander of the station, he's the leader of the war effort, he's this, he's that. Like, he's dealing with his son, still at that end, dealing with the loss of his wife and the meeting of Cassidy Yates, and moving forward, finally cutting the last few ties on the heels of meeting Mirror Jennifer.
Oh.
And he kind of becomes reborn for what, like the 6th time in the season? In the series, sorry?
Yeah. He goes through a lot of
small rebirths here and there.
Yeah, he does. So, I have an interesting question about Kira.
The Stomper.
Do you
Kira.
think she would be more enjoyable if they had found a different actor?
No.
Maybe.
It caused them to write her part differently.
Yeah, it'd have to be both. You're right, Scout. It would have to be both. Better actor and different writing. Absolutely.
I kind of liked her part. Like, I thought her part was interesting. Like, the way it was written, I thought it was interesting. But I just found the actor
she's a militant Deanna Troy.
Yeah.
She's Deanna Troy. She's a stomper. She's a I want my way kind of girl, except that she has some power behind it, where Deanna Troy never really did. So it's
there's no personality that comes through. It was like, this is an acting job. I'm here.
Yeah.
Mail it in. Another week. Another dollar.
No.
I just, God, she was the fly in the ointment. I really like DS9. The interesting, I'll tell a little personal story here about DS9. I had largely ignored DS9, had watched maybe about half of it. And Blind Press, I had a conversation. We were just talking on the phone. We do that occasionally. And she made the case that I should start watching DS9, really get up to speed on it, because if you give it a chance and watch a lot of it in a row, you'll get hooked. And I did. I watched the entire series, and then I watched most of the entire series again, just because I loved that environment. I loved going to that world. I loved those people. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Blind Press made me like Ferengi. I did, I started out hating Ferengi and thinking that I understood them. And I really developed an appreciation for, like Nog, for example.
Yes.
Not just the out there performers, but just the fullness of that subpart of the series. And that was anyway, that I'm still grateful to you for that.
It's a good series.
It is.
But yeah.
My favorite of the Treks.
Except for fucking Kira.
Oh, Kira.
See, now I disagree, because I really sort of empathized with her in the early stages. She just won her freedom, losing everything. So I understood where she was coming from in being a lot abrasive towards the Federation. Yeah. She sees another more powerful force moving into her backyard and going to start telling them how to live, which was not Cisco or the Federation's intention. They were there to help finally breaking down those walls, and then she became a part of the chain of command quite fluidly. And then in the later seasons, end of season 6, all throughout season 7, she actually starts warming up to people. She starts warming up to Dax when Dax gets pregnant and I said a prayer for you. And O'Brien and Julian, they're kind of like the goofy twosome, but she still had developed this respect and this relationship on a personal level with these people.
I might accept that more if she didn't read her lines as though she was doing a script.
I can see that.
She really wasn't that great of an actor. The only part that allowed me to accept her was when I finally saw her in a Starfleet uniform. I was like,
that was
it was at the end of the show, but it was still kind of like, all right. Now she's wearing a Starfleet uniform. Okay, I can bend the rules a little bit now because that orange jumpsuit that she wore just looks too much like a prison uniform. I mean, she fit it really well. She got she's put together well, but it just looked like she was Ronald McDonald in that thing.
Yeah.
I think maybe if they had Michelle Forbes, she played Ensign Rowe, and maybe translated
that would have been great.
She was
because she can act.
Wasn't she supposed to be in that role, but she turned it down?
Yes.
That was originally what was supposed to be slated.
Right, that was the pivot.
Did she see Michelle Forbes in that, Skep?
I didn't hear what you
Did
said.
you see Michelle Forbes in that part instead of Nana Visitor?
Maybe.
Would it be a much better?
It would have to be an improvement just because you have a better actor there. For that matter, Chase Masterson would be a better choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I just did not like the actor. I liked the part that they wrote for her. I just felt like she just kind of didn't. I didn't feel the same love and respect for the part that I did from the other characters or from the other actors.
Yeah, there wasn't that harmonization of the writing of the character to the actress.
Yeah.
On a scale at 1 out of 5 for best first officer, she's 37. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Her suckage goes to 11.
Yeah, I don't know.
Think of other first. Think of Spock.
I want to
Spock in your mind, and then think of Kira.
Skep, I want to openly condemn you too for pointing this shit out to me, because I actually, every time I watch the show now, it's like, oh God, it's fucking, it's like I see how shitty her acting is, right? It stands out.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't.
Now that you've seen it,
I got mad love for your ass.
You can't ignore it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You can touch me there, Skippy.
That's okay. I'll just watch her butt. That's all. I'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
About the extent
and then her badness is juxtaposed with Terry Farrell's amazingness.
Not in the first 2 seasons.
I love Jadzia Dax.
Yeah, but you want to talk a acting bit of cardboard. She was...
Yeah, that's true. She is kind of...
And I disagree with you. I'm with Blind Press on this. I love Dax.
Yeah.
But even Terry Farrell herself said in the first season and a half, she had a hard time melding into the character.
It usually takes...
I think she's a better actress than Nana, but you can
Not
still
by a
feel... You can no. She was a model.
Have you seen her in any? Yeah, she was a model. Have you seen her in anything else? She's very dry, even in real life. The interviews that you've done with her, she's a mom, soccer mom, kind of doesn't have a lot of interests, and there's nothing to her outside of Star Trek.
Although I still think it ruined season 7 by her leaving the show.
Oh yeah.
That whole thing.
Oh, I can't stand Esri.
You just start getting into the character of Dax.
Are we going to do Esri Dax now? Or Jesus God.
Are we done with the Stomper?
Yeah.
All right.
No, but I was very upset when they especially I was looking forward to the Worf Dax thing.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to little Worfettes running around.
Yes.
Alexander's little sister.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
With your luck, she'll look like him. I hope she does.
Can
As
you see the forehead and the dots?
As Redax made me want to blow my brains out. I just wanted.
I'd like to
if
date her,
they
but I
made it
wouldn't
now,
want
I
to watch
guess
her on the
Ezra
show.
would be a dude. Right?
What's that?
I guess I was saying, if they did it now, Ezra would be a dude,
Yep.
be a male. But then again, I guess the
The
symbiote.
Trill, see, that's another really woke thing that Star Trek did. Was the Trill.
Yeah.
Because
They really separated out the whole trans thing with them. They could be guys, they could be girls.
Yeah. And they did it really well in this series, and they did it really well in the episode The Host.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Beverly.
Yeah, Dr. Beverly. But I mean, I absolutely just really liked the character of Jadzia, and I don't know, I could see Terry Farrell being a kind of a boring, like dry.
It was a well-written part.
But her part was amazingly well written.
Yeah.
Ezri's was I don't know how the hell Ezri made it into anything.
Well, I mean, even her appearance on the station goes against everything we've learned about the Trill in their society, how they operate in relation to the hosts and the symbionts, and going back to former lives. That just spat in the face of all of that they built. And again, that leads mostly to why I feel that whole Terry Farrell leaving the show really killed season 7 for me.
Yeah.
In a sense, because part of the magic of DS9 as a whole was learning about other races. We got a much more in-depth look at the Trill, the Klingons, etc. And then to learn all of that and then just go, huh? What? How why are they just allowing this to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It just didn't work.
Because what happens is, Jadzia dies, Bashir saves the symbiont, and he takes the symbiont to Trill.
Yeah. He knows.
But they didn't have the appropriate person or something weird like that, and so Ezri was the only one on the Federation ship that was going to Trill, and then they had to put it in her, and it was just like, okay, then why are you bringing her back to the station and not to Trill?
Yeah.
What happened to the Federation getting a Trill host to come to the ship? Why are they taking the host to Trill? Because that's not how it worked before.
Right.
The only reason it worked the other way was because there were talks going on that couldn't be postponed, and it was an emergency situation that they had to bring a new host.
Yeah,
they didn't.
They
have
couldn't
time
move.
to wait.
Yeah, but I mean, even with Deep Space Nine, like what Hammer's saying, why at very least meet halfway, send a Trill ship to intercept the Federation ship, something. Have these are their pride and joy, their most valuable. I don't want to say commodity, citizen. Their most valuable identity is these symbionts.
Yeah.
100,000 Trill would lay down their lives to save one symbiont. So why isn't there this sense of urgency? Let's meet. Let's get this symbiont into a viable host ASAP. And Nicole DeBoer, she's a little bit of a better actor again than the beginning of Jadzia, but it just nothing meshed, nothing fit. She didn't have the time with the other actors or with the writing staff to sort of meld into her character like the rest of the cast had.
Yeah.
I never got with the Worf Jadzia thing either.
No.
I expected Bashir to wear her down and then to be a couple.
See, I was glad that didn't happen.
It was too obvious.
Yeah.
Even in the beginning of season 7, Ezri confides in Julian and says, if Worf hadn't come around, it would have been you.
Yeah.
That broke my heart for Julian, but at the same time, I'm like, but that's too obvious.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And Jadzia was just better at the Klingons. Like, she was more of a
Well,
better fit for Worf.
she was 10 previous people, so yeah, she had a little bit more experience and can make that transition to
Yeah.
Klingons.
Curzon was the Federation ambassador to Kronos.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Daxes were there in DS9?
Lots.
I think there were 11 because there were two alternate hosts, Vered and Yedrin.
Yep.
So you have Leela, Tobin, Imani, Audrid, Torius, Duran, Curzon, Jadzia, Esri, Varad, and Yedrin. That's 11 that I've been able to research out so far.
Duran was the murderer, right?
Yes. Duran
Yeah.
was,
Yes.
Duran was the murderer. The musician murderer.
Yeah.
And was it Yedrin where we find out that their selection process, their story of there has to be very specific criteria to be bondable with a symbiont is kind of just a cover story. It's more like 70% of the population can.
Yeah.
But they want to make sure that the best and brightest get these memories and contribute the most. I think that's what made Jadzia as a Starfleet officer so cool. She was third in command of the station. She could command the Defiant. She's a brilliant scientist. She was a space hoe, sleeping around with Captain Baudet.
Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Yedrin actually never existed, right? Because does he
Children in
blink
Time.
out of existence when they avoid the crash?
Yeah.
Good point.
So he kind
We
of
never do find out.
I don't know. That's time paradoxes fuck with my mind.
Now is not the time for time paradoxes. Is that a joke?
Fighter.
We don't like those either.
Yeah. I love that. I love that line.
Which okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and dive into it. The yesterday's Enterprise. No, not yesterday's Enterprise. Trouble with Tribbles.
Trials
Homage.
and Tribulations. Yeah.
Trials and Tribulations.
Tribulations, yes.
When Dax is talking about these are some of her best moments, I think, because she lived those times, and she says she likes the finish of the tricorder. She's pining to Cisco about how handsome he is, and he's like, "Yeah, Kirk was always known as a bit of a ladies' man." No, not Kirk, Spock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yes, you get it, Jadzia."
I loved that. That was great. The I just want to go shake his hand, and he's like, no. Oh, is the Otter joining us?
Yeah, the Otter's in chat.
I think the Otter is joining us.
Oh, good.
Oh, he wants to talk about Esri. He's probably got a thing for her.
She's cute.
She's
too
cute.
Short for me. Too short for me.
I can kind of agree with Polly. It was interesting in a sense, but I think what we lost didn't outweigh what we gained.
Yeah,
in the show as a whole,
she'd make a great girlfriend. That's what she reminded me of. She was like,
I could pick her up with my pinky. She's like 5 foot or 4'8" or something.
Yeah, she's
her
tiny.
voice bothered me. Esri's voice bothered me.
Yeah, I'm not. I've got a thing for tall women, so she's way too short. But
I liked Jadzia's voice. Hello, Polly.
hey, Otterman.
Polly.
Merry Christmas, one and all. How are you?
Merry Christmas.
Christmas, Polly.
And happy Festivus to the rest of us.
Yes, she would make a girlfriend, and yes, I do have a thing for Esri.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, Well, you guys are talking about Esri. I was sitting here listening, and I'm like, no, I can't. Did I get a link? I got a link. Yay! Okay. Do you know what like the thing? Like, I couldn't quite put my finger on it for a while because I think you're right. She didn't have time to mesh with the other actors. Those are all true things. One season, long time established. Skip, you said Mary Sue for Jedzia.
Yeah.
That's not unfair.
She was a bit of a Mary Sue. I still liked her because I'm just so in love with the idea of trolldom.
Yes.
It's good, and it was developed well by a number of writers. A good example of what writers who care about canon and willing to develop in a shared universe can do. You know, when you think about the first TNG episode to where they were at with trolldom by the time of the end of DS9, I mean, that's good development in universe canon, man. Like, wow. She's a story-based Mary Sue, but a Mary Sue nonetheless. Like, it makes sense she can do all these things. Look at all the lifetimes.
It's not out of context the way that idiot in the new Star Trek thing, those new Star Trek films that are unwatchable, where she just pops out of nowhere and she can suddenly defeat Jedi Masters, even though she's never.
You mean Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
That's like.
I'm pretty sure Michael Burnham thought of
that kind of a Mary Sue makes me crazy.
Yeah,
but
it's
this kind of a Mary
unearned.
Sue that has proper context where you can rationalize. It's not, it's how big an ask of your audience do you dare make?
It's the reason why people hated Wesley so much.
This is a much more reasonable request from the audience of disbelief suspension than what Star Wars asks you to do.
For sure.
Like I said, I couldn't quite put my finger on what I liked about Esri. I think it was obvious that she got with Dr. Bashir. Kind of creepy in a way, I've always thought, because it's like, oh, I couldn't have my chance with Jadzia. Oh, but here's this naive version of Jadzia. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
I can't have her.
Right, and she's younger. Like, it's kind of sick, man. But whatever. I would have done the same as Bashir did. But the thing I don't
think it would have been... I think it would have been more interesting to have her actually hook up with Quark. It would be weird and a little jarring at first, but it wouldn't be expected. And even though there's still that connection between Jadzia and Bashir with Esri around, there was equally an amount of connection between Jadzia and Quark.
They left it open as to they left it open as to whether or not her and Quark got together, because they made it clear in the conversation between Kira and Jadzia that Jadzia has dated, i.e. Bang, Ferengi. She said plural.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, well, I'm not the one who dates Ferengi. And she goes, what's that supposed to mean? And it's like, well, they're disgusting little sharp-toothed trolls. That's what it means.
I'm not a Dabo girl.
But the thing that I like about Esri is she's one of the few characters, Hammer and I have talked about this a bunch, that the best place to be if you were on the Enterprise D would be in 10 Forward.
Oh, yeah.
You get to go on the adventures, you get to talk to all the people, you know what's going on, you have the ear of all the people that are in command, meaning you're not going to be left out of the loop. You don't have to deal with the rigors of the hierarchy of command, but you get all of the luxuries of the ship, and you're just hanging out serving synthahol all day. What a great job.
But you're first to die in one of the dozen or so times the Enterprise crashes into a planet.
Yep.
Admittedly, having it on the very tip of the ship isn't a good idea. But
Right.
But you wouldn't want... I mean, imagine being in command under Geordi LaForge in engineering.
Oh, my God. That's a thankless job there.
Well, right? I mean, Geordi's an asshole. It's sort of the open secret of TNG. He's kind of a dick. He's got his dating problems and his flaws that make him somewhat relatable, but he's also kind of a dick. And everybody's so perfect. Like, Wesley goes off to, he's still having to struggle at the Cadet Academy. He's got an eidetic memory. He speaks multiple languages. He's a technical genius at 15, and he's still struggling. The mathematical requirements that they talked about, and now his friend that died in the shuttle accident,
that he helped cause.
Yeah, that he went along with, that not Tom Paris convinced them to go along with.
Right. Locarno.
The Nicholas Locarno. God, if I could only harness my memory for useful things.
Tom Paris?
Not Tom Paris.
Yeah,
he's God, Polly. That's like the story of my life.
They're all such perfect people. We wouldn't get along with them was always my belief. These people they speak multiple languages. Picard speaks French. He speaks Latin. Who the fuck speaks conversational Latin, especially in the 24th century? But they're all just so brilliant, so smart. Here's Ezri. She's unchurched. She's an accidental officer. It wasn't supposed to happen. She's nervous as hell. She can't mesh with her previous hosts in such a way as to bring their skills to bear like Jadzia did. She's like the opposite of a Mary Sue. She's kind of a screw up, and it's adorable and fresh. Finally, one of the members of the crew is not fucking perfect. Oh, Barclay's a good, yes, yeah, and look how beloved Barclay is.
Yes,
Barclay's great.
So beloved, they brought him back for Voyager.
Yeah.
Broccoli.
Mr. Broccoli.
Awesome.
Get on it, Mr. Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Imagine sitting down having a conversation with Data and LaForge. It'd be like, oh, fuck, I'm going and getting drunk. Like, fuck this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
Or even someone like Troy or Crusher or, God forbid, Pulaski.
Oh,
actually, Pulaski might be fun to greet with. She's such a belligerent old crone.
I bet Pulaski's an alcoholic. Man. I bet that knock it down.
My alcohol bar went off on that too. Irate, absolutely.
Yes. It takes one to know one.
Word up.
Well, that's what happens when you fall down of elevator shafts. You
Exactly.
Boston legal, right?
Boston legal.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. You've been in the Navy. You got to have sharp people. Yeah, I get that. But it's Roddenberry's vision of the future, where and it is their social principle of we better ourselves. Yeah, but these people are spit and polish annoying. Like they're not just spit and polish. They're just such goody two shoes. All of them. You know what I mean?
If I were in the 24th century, people would come into my quarters. They'd be like, "God, what a mess! It's such a mess in here." And then they'd be like,
Loeffler.
And then they'd be like, why do we keep getting fire warnings going off from here? What are you lighting? Oh, why are you smoking? What are you smoking? What is going on?
Well,
I remember
that's something I'll give the Orville. The Orville who carries today's spirit of Trek, they tackle the same kind of issues that Trek would. They tackle the smoking thing, both cigarettes and marijuana.
And the people on that ship are not the brightest people in the world.
No, it's.
That's what I love about it, man.
I
They're
need to
very
watch the
human.
Orville.
It is good.
Did you say you need to watch the Orville?
I did.
Oh, BP, you have to.
I still refuse.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit more lighthearted at times, but it is truly the modern day spirit of Trek.
Yeah, it was more lighthearted when it first came out. The first 3-4 episodes were had some little goofy stuff in it. It got a little bit more serious as it went on, a little bit more like classic Trek, where it was more, they actually faced serious shit.
Yeah, when it dealt with the overarching theme throughout the season. Yeah.
That shit when the first officer got physically beat the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy shit! They're showing a woman tied to a chair, getting her ass kicked, like punched in the face. I was like, whoa, how do you get away with doing that and now in this 2020, how do you get away with, or 2019 at the time, how do you get away with doing something like that? Because it was brutal. They were just bang, bang in her face. I'm like, oh my God, somebody go help her,
And even though it's fiction, it's still something that, like, you're right, in today's age, could most people get away with that? And no, probably not.
Oof.
Seth MacFarlane can.
Yeah.
And
I admit part of my reason for not wanting to watch the Orvilles, it's pretty petty. I just can't stand Seth MacFarlane. I hate him. I hate him.
Is he too pompous for you, man?
He's hugely pompous, and
And you'll like this because he's kind of a bumbling idiot. Good captain,
he doesn't
but a
have
humbling
any-
idiot.
There's no originality in anything the man's ever done creatively in his entire life. He's remaking Revenge of the Nerds now, and it's like, shocker.
That's real creative guts. Showing real creative guts.
It's like I want to do Star Trek, but I can't get the license to do Star Trek. I know I'm going to do not Star Trek and hire all the Star Trek people to do not Star Trek. Like, oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. I love Star Trek too.
Well,
but
CBS isn't doing Star Trek, so
Yeah, no shit.
Amen. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does he remind you of Elon
Canon
Musk at
ended
all?
after Enterprise. That's.
I think you would feel guilty, but you would still enjoy it. You say, God damn it.
So does
It's the way-
Seth MacFarlane remind us of Elon Musk? What an interesting.
Do they look the
question.
same to you at all? Physically, I'm not talking about.
I mean, intellectually they're not.
no.
Physically, maybe.
I can see that, man.
I just thought they look a little bit the same.
Yeah.
Seriously, the Orville season 2, but not season 1. Thanks, Apple TV.
oh no.
Yeah, they do that half-ass shit, don't they?
Well, if you want the Orville, see
You
me
know-
after the show.
Yeah, or Europix HD is your friend.
All you need brings up an interesting point, like the reestablishing old relationships for the Trells. And I get the idea that, yes, there was the romance that Jadzia had with the person when they were both different, and when they were both in different hosts. And then, the taboo of the reestablishment of their relationship. And it's like, well, but they never, you're supposed to really move on. Like, is it limited only to romantic partners? Because Esri breaks that taboo.
Oh, yeah,
because
she bangs Worf right away.
Yeah, she bangs Worf on the planet in the forest, and then goes after Julian, who she had. She didn't want to bang him. She had an affection for him, if you know what I mean.
I did not.
I thought Julian was firmly in the friend zone.
Yeah, it was like she got her intellectual needs met with Julian, and
Yeah.
that BBC was doing his thing.
Well, and I mean,
Backdoor man.
if only their Jetsi is like revisiting the Klingon past of Curzon. Like they don't really establish how they past relationships. Does that mean only romantic, sexual, partnered relationships are what's taboo? Because Esri violates it in every kind of way. She just goes back to not Janzia's job. Like, I mean, she was a counselor, not obviously a
First officer,
an ops officer,
science officer, whatever she was.
Yeah.
She was an ensign before she got the symbiote, and then she got promoted to lieutenant, like right after.
Yeah, talk about a little bit of I talked to Starfleet Command. They're okay with making you a lieutenant. And why? Because I asked them to. Goddamn Starfleet nepotism. I made an argument to them that what were you going to learn in the next few months that you couldn't in the last 500 years? It's like, oh, that's how it works. So Trills just get commissioned out of the blue. I get it.
So we kind of got stuck on Dax. Do we want to move on to
Who's next?
O'Brien?
O'Brien?
Yes.
Yeah, let's move on to O'Brien.
The most beat up character and destroyed character and be set upon by horrors character in the history of Star. Who suffered more than O'Brien?
Well, if you're married to Keiko, nobody.
No kidding.
Married to Keiko,
But he was
convinced that he was in a prison, has that psychological damage of being mentally imprisoned for
60
years.
years.
Remember,
Didn't
he
he
had
also
fought in the
think that
war
Well,
And
yeah,
and
against
he also
Cardassians.
thought that he killed his cellmate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is a veteran of
the Cardassian
horrid.
War.
Yeah, like that could be considered not a massacre exactly. He did what he had to do on what was the
Setlick 3.
Setlick.
Setlick.
Thank you, the Oracle once again. Like I mean, that's terrible. Just wiping out people, and he talks about in the first episode where they introduced the Cardassians.
Old wounds, or broken, or the wounded.
The wounded
Wounded,
again,
yeah.
yeah, the wounded. Yeah, with it, he makes it clear what a nightmare it was for me. He had never swatted a mosquito before that point. And it's like, this poor man, he's been through it all. I mean, the first character to like on screen point a phaser to his head, and like, God, that was a deep moment. Like it,
And he's the guy who always gets beat up in this one. It's not Worf. when the Jem'Hadar beam onto the bridge or ops or whatever,
It's
he's always the
O'Brien.
one
Yeah.
getting that first like crushing blow to stun everyone.
Cole Meany's a great actor.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love-
he brings
he
it through,
plays-
man.
Yeah.
plays that everyday working man. He's not an officer. He's an enlisted grunt, an engineer, a family man, and building on his character, his somewhat of a throwaway character in TNG, to fully flesh him out was just amazing to see, because I loved seeing him in TNG.
And once again, good collaboration between writer and actors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Writers.
Exactly.
This is the first 3 episodes that he appeared in. They just called him Chief.
Yeah.
They didn't even call him O'Brien, and then they eventually called him Miles O'Brien. You know, you could see the progression as they made him more and more human. And I can't really think of a character who's probably more generically loved by everybody who likes every episode of every series.
Yeah.
And
He's
I
probably
do
so
know that
human.
part of that is if I was drinking on DS9, it'd
Yeah.
be with O'Brien.
Absolutely.
Throwing darts with
and
O'Brien.
Quark. In other words, like the guys you could actually relate to. Everyone else is so smart and achieved, and I'd want Esri there too, just to see if I could get her drunk. But
Mhm. You wouldn't even need to get her drunk, maybe, Polly. You could just.
He really is a talented person too. If he can do everything he does on the Enterprise and then walk onto a Cardassian battle station, which is what it was at the time, and convert it into a functioning space station almost by himself.
well, technically, or processing station.
I
but,
would.
well.
I would argue.
Yeah.
Still heavily armored.
Yeah.
I like Geordie LaForge. Don't get me wrong. But I would argue that O'Brien is probably a better engineer.
Well, certainly a better engineer in the state that if you don't have anything to work with, you can still make it work.
Agreed.
Oh yeah.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah.
In the
He
best of
is
conditions, Geordie
Way
runs
more
it.
MacGyver.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And
Remember
Miles is also the mighty Vole Hunter.
Yeah, but if you have to MacGyver it, yeah, you definitely want Miles over Geordie. You're
Oh,
right.
You know the
Mhm.
DS9 episode where they crash on the planet and there's a small company of Jem'Hadar and one Vorta on the planet, and they
Oh, yes.
the Vorta's injured and needs the help of the doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a little meta joke in there by the writers that I thought was clever, like hilariously clever. It's like, I'm assuming you have an engineer with you, one of those vaunted Starfleet engineers that can make tricorders from rocks.
Replicators from rocks. Yeah. And it also has one of the best lines, I don't care what anybody says, where he just breaks down laughing and Cisco's like, "What?" And he doesn't break down laughing. He's cursing and like, "Oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe it." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "I tore my pants." you tore, and then they just like fall over just laughing.
It's totally something that you would.
So O'Brien.
Yeah, no, it's.
Well, they're the only
totally
ones that
something-
fit right. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they're the only ones that fit right. Yeah.
The
Talking
smoking
about
wreck
the
of
everyman concern. I love it.
This is when you take a really, really great actor and give him really, really good lines and turn him loose.
Yeah, well said.
So an established, well-known, well-traveled character actor long before Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
You know, storied career
Lots of
before that.
movies.
Yes, playing all kinds of different kind of characters, sensitive, mean, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there's no doubt that Cole Meany is top of the
All you
top of
need
the
is
class.
a-
Alcoholic Irish father thing, man.
Yeah, and that he's a drinker is the best part.
Oh, dude.
But really quick, all you need makes a good point. It's a nice piece of Trek nerdy trivia. Yes, O'Brien's the longest continuous character, but Worf is the character who's appeared in the most episodes as
Yeah.
a character. Because O'Brien was like spotty in TNG episodes, but
Yeah.
O'Brien's a longer character because he was in the pilot,
Yeah.
mission to Farpoint, and then all through DS9 as well. So that's the longest, but not the most episodes.
No,
That's Worf.
no. The character that appears the most episodes is actually Riker because he shows up in Voyager.
The most episodes as a total number of episodes.
No, most series that he's been in,
Series.
that anyone's
That's
been
what-
in.
That's what I mean. It's in terms of
Yeah.
most number of episodes, but in most series, there's another nerdy distinction. Fair enough. That would be Riker. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were saying. I was like, wait,
No,
wait.
I meant like number of
Gotcha,
episodes.
gotcha,
Whereas All You Need brings up the point. What's the longest continuous character? Because Picard disappears, the whole TNG crew disappears, basically for DS9, where from episode 1, the emissary O'Brien's there.
Yeah.
Interesting point about Cole Meany. Do you know where he lives?
Doesn't he live in Ireland?
No, he does live on an island in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's much smaller than Ireland. I think he lives on Mallorca. I used to know. I looked it up just a couple of months ago, and I can't remember the name of it. But I think he lives on Mallorca.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you were going to say Saint Helena.
Well, I mean, this is a tiny, not tiny, but not itty bitty, but it's a very small island, much smaller than Ireland, much smaller than Ireland, in the Atlantic Ocean. I think it's off the coast of Spain.
There's one thing that I've noticed in terms of watching TNG actors, in terms of Cole Meany, the actor. He is one of the most fun guys to listen to at panel conferences for cons.
Oh, yeah.
He's not, in my opinion, he's just not telling the same stories over and over again. And he seems
extremely intelligent.
Yeah, he seems like a very relatable guy, and he talks a lot about Ireland and different things. And he seems to have a lot of stories where some of the other actors, they're actors. They don't seem as easily relatable to a crowd. I mean, and then there's the best guy at cons, and that's Shatner, because
he's Shatner.
Shatner. Yeah, exactly. The audience loves him, and he plays back and forth with them so well. It just,
Wikipedia says that Cole Meany lives in a small Mallorcan town of Soler, Soller.
That's it, Solar. Yeah, Solar. Huh. And yes, that's I looked that up.
Where is that?
It's in Mallorca, off the coast of
that is.
I think it's an island in the Mediterranean or off the Atlantic. Can't remember where Mallorca is.
It's a Spanish-owned island, though, isn't it?
Speaking of O'Brien being a drinker, when you said that, there's two scenes that came to mind. The one in DS9 where he and Bashir sit down at the end of the episode in Quark's bar for a drink, and he pulls out his special bottle. I think it was at Quark's bar, not his own quarters. And it was in the bar, and he pours a couple of drinks, and Bashir looks at the bottle and goes, "This is older than me." And O'Brien goes, "What?" And like his reaction was so genuine. And he looks at it and goes, "I'm drinking with a child."
Yeah.
I remember that. That's funny. That's one of the funnier ones.
And then the maligned episode that I think is a glorious trash fire is the season 1 episode where they encounter the drunken Irishman in space.
Oh, God.
Up the long ladder, I believe.
That's season 2.
Season 2?
I shared my screen.
Shit.
And that's where Mallorca is. If you,
I was looking it up in Wikipedia.
Season
on the screen.
2, episode 18 is what it is.
That far into season 2, good, because it's just like you encounter a bunch of Irishmen in space, and they're all a bunch of just raging stereotypes, and it's
brewing pochi, but we'd like to do it without the bloody ship firing bloody lightning bolts.
That no problem with that. The one with the I just brain farted on the name of the episode with Tashiar had to fight the princess or whatever, the African planet.
Oh yeah, a matter of honor.
Problematic planet. Matter of honor. Thank you.
Yeah,
problematic planet.
Yeah, you know what?
That is like a total shitstorm. That's super. But, the potato eaters in space is totally fine.
Yeah, that's fine. And I love when I forget the lead character's name that was from the planet. The guy whose daughter was like incredibly hot.
In the original series?
No, in TNG when they go up the long ladder. Remember his Irish daughter who?
I remember her.
when Riker broke through her
What's the
icy
matter,
exterior.
Commander? Don't you like women? Don't you like girls?
What's that? yeah, it was
Brenna?
That's a great line.
Hammer, was it Brenna Odell?
Yeah, Brennan O'Dell. That's,
no,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah, it's
What's the matter, Riker? Don't you like girls? He's like, no, I'm fine with girls. What are you saying?
There was one thing that reminds me when he first started hitting on her.
She was
There's a
hot.
really confusing line that happens. She's kind of picking up hay and straw in the corner, and he says that's not really necessary. The ship will clean itself. What did he mean by that? Like the ship's going to beam random pieces of debris into space? Like what are you referencing exactly? What do you mean the ship's going to clean itself?
True, we never hear anything before or after that about how the ship is maintained. I can't imagine somebody walking around with a broom.
It probably has like little, like you could probably beam debris into space or recycle a lot of stuff.
Because all the ship's floors are carpeted, and in the Judith and Garfield Reeve Stevens Expanded Universe books, which everyone should read because they're awesome, they talk about, they get into the technical details of the Trek universe, and it's tracto flooring the carpet on the ships. It meant that like if the ship starts swaying to and fro because the inertial dampeners go off, that the carpet's extremely deep traction. It's like you're standing on Velcro, but it is carpet. And it's someone's going to need to have a vacuum. So what does the ship do? The ship cleans itself by beaming carpet debris into space. Like, does that mean if you left your quarters really messy one time, you might come back and find the ship?
Do you realize what the energy? Do you realize what the energy requirement would be to beam each mote of dust into space?
Well, would they waste it, or would they just put it in storage so it can be used in the matter antimatter?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would do. Is
keep it. I would do
it's
it.
mass, convert it to energy.
All you need says it's never mentioned, but the technical manual mentions maintenance bots. You just never see them.
So the ship was full of Roombas. That's what Riker meant. See, I always thought something energy related would happen, that it would like like a force field would side the straw up and put it into a bale or something. I never pictured a bunch of little robots running around doing shit. Maybe that's what's going on.
I hate to bring up Orville again, but they make a joke. I think it was the first or second episode where they had a janitor and make a comment akin to, well, who else is going to do it, kind of thing. A little jab at Star Trek. But I didn't know that they had maintenance bots.
I wonder if they're like the holograms that they met, like how Louis Zimmerman's Mark 1s were repurposed to clean the dilithium matrices, or all that stuff.
No, they were mining, weren't they?
They're mining. Yeah, that's it. They weren't cleaning dilithium. They were mining dilithium.
Still a lot of energy to clean the ship, to have a hologram do it.
Yeah, because then you'd have to have hollow emitters
Emitters everywhere.
The ship.
Yeah.
Which provably were not.
I remember watching a riff tracks of one of the Star Wars films. I don't know if you guys watch riff tracks. There's a comedy commentaries that are laid on top that you get as MP3s for people kind of cracking jokes and making fun of what you're watching. Anyway, there's one of Star Wars, and it's like, we can't do anything. I better be careful. We don't want to cause any environmental damage to this planet. Wait a minute. We've got hundreds of planets in this system. Screw it. Let's burn the atmosphere. What environmental concerns would they have in the Federation where they've got literally hundreds and thousands of M-class planets and L-class planets that they can convert? Why would you be worried about resources? You have near infinite resources. Just go to an asteroid field and pull whatever we need from them. It's a galaxy of resources out there.
It's funny. We look around to all the planets that we can see, and we don't see any M-class planets. They're all weird, high gravity, no atmosphere, too hot, too cold. They rotate. They're tidally locked. All these weird things. But in the Star Trek universe, everything is fucking M-class.
It certainly seems that way.
Like if they're not M-class, they're
L-class, which is right next to it,
which is close, or there's some planets where you, like, I think the only time we see the most we see inhospitable planets is Voyager.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Which was what I was just thinking about. What letter designation was the demon class planet?
Why?
Yeah, it was
That's Y class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Notice how she knows it like that.
That's why I call her the Oracle. It's weird. It's
She is awesome.
I knew that one. I don't know as
I
much
knew,
as he does,
I knew.
but I know that one. The demon planet, the planet from hell. It was the name of the episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just
Planet-
demon.
Demon. Yeah.
Demon.
That episode was it was good and it was interesting, etc. But it doesn't touch Course to Oblivion, the
Oh.
playoff sequel of it. That was just
That was
Hard to
oh my
watch.
God.
yeah. Like it starts off. Yeah, it starts off. Think about from where they start to where they
and
end.
it
Yeah,
ends so
Yeah.
freaking sadly.
we got a new warp core. We're only 2 years from Federation. Tom and Balana are getting married. Just
Tom got his lieutenancy back.
right. 7 of 9 got drunk for the first time. All sorts of fun things are happening. And then you dissolve into space, and that's the end of it, and all your worries and pains are for nothing. It's like,
Dissolve
oh,
it
Jesus.
to nothingness. All
Yeah.
memory of your existence is gone.
Yeah, and nobody even knew because they dissolved. We thought we were detecting a Federation signal, but we must be wrong. Oh, well, moving on. It's like, oh my
There's
God.
just some little goo in space. Oh well.
Yeah. Oh, that was such a
So
hard
depressing.
episode. It
Federation
was.
goo.
Yeah. Good episode, though, in terms of like high drama. Well done.
Yeah.
And it had that great detective mystery, like what the hell's going on with our ship, that it's falling apart.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the way they work backwards to figure out, holy shit.
We're not
it's-
actually
it's not what's
supposed
going-
to be here.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the ship around us. It's us. Oh, man.
Were there any characters that we could compare to O'Brien?
I don't
Scotty.
think so.
I mean,
Well,
come on.
Yeah.
Scotty, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Scotty seems like he's a bit of O'Brien, a bit of Geordie. You know, a bit of that.
I think O'Brien
spelling
was supposed to be a
perfectionist, but also a
callback.
working man.
O'Brien and Scotty would probably get along a lot better than Geordie and Scotty did.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, and
Once
it's
they
a good
got
point, 'cause
past the
who would you want to go
Scotch-Irish.
drinking with on the original Enterprise?
I know
Scotty.
I know you all
Scotty.
hate Enterprise, the show, but Trip
I love
probably
it.
fits this as well.
Would it? No, I love
Trip.
Enterprise.
How could I forget Trip?
Yeah.
Trip is cool.
Trip
Yeah.
is good.
There's more people on the Enterprise crew that I think I'd want to drink with than anybody because they weren't spit and polish goody two shoes by that point, right? They were more
Pioneers.
rough hewn explorer pioneer type people. Yeah.
Hoshi.
Yeah. Oh man, I
Oh,
drink
Oh.
in a hot second.
Emphasis on ho.
Hoshi and T'Pol at the same time. Oh wait, we were talking about drinking?
Dude, yes.
I
So
got a great recipe for sake Hoshi.
so we haven't talked about Odo yet.
Mm.
I really liked Odo was probably one of my favorite characters in Deep Space Nine. And I liked Rene Auberjonois' portrayal of Odo. And Odo's character was another really well written and very well acted character because we have the fact that he's a changeling, which even before the Dominion War, people had trouble trusting him.
Yeah.
Because he could change into, whatever he wanted to. And he had the dubious, honor, I guess, of being in charge of the station security. So not only did people not trust him because he was a changeling, but they didn't trust him because he was the station cop, basically.
Yeah.
And it was very well written that, like, the sarcasm that Odo had. Like, I loved the sarcasm.
That dry
it-
wit, yeah.
And it comes
Yeah.
in the first episode. It was meant to be part of his character trait, right? When Cisco comes in and threatens Quark, and Cisco leaves the room, he's like, "I didn't think I was going to like him."
Yeah, and to think I was worried I wasn't going to like him.
What is that term for a character who has a lot of potential but is never realized for that potential? There's a name for that word. There's a word for that.
I know exactly what you mean, but I can't remember.
That's my feeling for him, that they could have done so much more with him. That would have been so much more interested, but just didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they didn't do it.
The shape shifting thing seemed like a gimmick.
The character, the actual graphic representation of it was really poor level of
oh my
graphics.
God, that graphics is horrible. Oh Jesus!
And he can't do a nose. He can do a hand
right
perfectly.
Oh, he turned into
an
an eagle with all of its feathers, including the pinions, perfect for flight and everything, but can't do a fucking nose or ears.
Face.
Yeah, I want.
Come on.
That's one of those things that you just kind of have to.
And there was no progression.
Accept
7 seasons, and he couldn't get any better at it after 7 seasons. Come on, somewhere along the line, you have to get. You know, I was working on today. I was working on ears. What do you think of my latest version? You know,
like the later seasons, Hammer, when they crash and there's that alternate crew where he's more mature, older. He does have better depth in his facial features and all that. That's what I was hoping we would have gotten. Season 5, season 6. See a little bit of that progression. Some more lines in the ears, a better defined nose, little by little.
Somebody wasn't paying attention.
No.
And like I said, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I was going to go off on a tangent about Ojo. Odo.
Okay, well then Ojo. Then just 2 quick things. Like I said at the top of the show, his character injected that sort of noir feeling.
Yeah.
Yes,
that story noir, which was really great, really refreshing to the Star Trek brand.
Yeah, but nobody likes noir stuff, right, Polly?
Shut up. I did.
And it also, in cases, what we were again talking about before the show, it dealt with a social justice topic without ham-fisting it in your face all the time. Racism. Everybody in the Alpha Quadrant had some level of racism, fear, bigotry towards him before the Dominion, because he was a shapeshifter. He's this unknown factor in the universe. And then after, because they find out that the people he comes from are fascistic despots.
Yeah.
Bent on controlling everything and in instilling their form of order at the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
But you never get that feeling of ham-fisted. Oh well, we have to be kinder and more welcoming to the changelings. Like it just didn't go that way.
No, it didn't.
Lent itself to adding a little bit of darkness to some of the undertones in the show.
I agree.
The thing I appreciated the most of Odo's character, like some of the initial parts with the revealing of the founders and that, you know, that he was one of the founders in the sense that they're all changelings, was kind of weak in the beginning, but then got more interesting when they developed like what the Great Link was and why they're the genetics masters behind the Vorta and so forth, that they cloned their entire force to protect them, and they have this insane need for order, and they will impose their order on the galaxy, damn it. Like people are talking about the Cardassians like are stand-in for space Nazis, and it's like, really? What about the Dominion? They're very German. You know, and
it's like, very crazy too how they can relate to the Borg in a sense, in that they are a hive mind with individualities within the hive mind, very complex sort of societal mind behind them.
Yeah,
it never gets fleshed out, but it's always there behind the scenes, and it's really cool.
I like that story development. It was a good idea. It's good universe expansion in terms of the universe being lived in and just story development. But my favorite part of Odo was always him as an investigator. It's not a cop, but an investigator. Because whenever that happened, I think when Rene Aubergine-Joie, I can never say his name right. He played into it really well. Like there's the episode with the return of the Jadzia's host.
Yeah.
the killer,
Duran.
and and two great things happen in an episode. You get to hear the Odo reference pulp novels that I myself read, because I read Mike Hammer, Mickey's
Yeah.
Plane. I was like, that's great. He said the thing. I was,
But
because he knows what powder burns are, and sort of the way he detects his way through it, and that was awesome to watch. Because somebody in the
it's so
future,
believable.
somebody would need to do a
Good
crime
writing.
scene investigation and be a detective like he is, and you rarely see that, as opposed to the way Starfleet people handle everything: stare at a tricorder and walk around reading things off of the tricorder, going, "Well, I'm detecting a residual energy signature."
Like,
here."
those are
That's-
always the best Odo episodes.
Juxtapose that against the side of his character he showed in, I think it was called The Begotten, where he has to raise the foundling.
Oh,
And he promises it won't face the same challenges he did, and shows it love and understanding. He works with Dr. Mora to study it, and they kind of rejoice as the changeling forms a roughly humanoid face and rises from its liquid state.
I remember that episode, and then it like becomes it leaves.
Very bittersweet.
Yeah, obviously has a bittersweet ending, but I just, in terms of looking into, looking at the fatherly pride kind of in Odo on that.
Yes.
It's kind of
and also at the beginning of that, a bit of arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks he's never had any experience with any of that, but he thinks he knows everything. And it takes a little bit of hard love from Dr. Mora to say, "Hey, you gotta maybe start listening to other people." I think Bashir also mentioned something it was Cisco.
Cisco.
Yeah,
Cisco who kind of urges him to, "Hey, I'm a father. I know what I'm talking about. A little bit of help is okay."
Yeah.
I really dug the the arrogance that it starts with, but it's not just character revealing for Odo, it's development of his character.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because he changes. He has an arc in that story, in his relationship, not just how he thinks about the world, but his relationship to Dr. Mora, who he thinks of as his torturer, as opposed to a parental figure. By the end of the episode, he does see him that way. That was such a great line where the changeling does the little thing because of the mild electrostatic shock. It moves into the center of the thing, and he smiles, and he goes, "I smiled the first time you did that.
Yeah.
Little did I know you would grow to hate me for it."
Yeah.
And like, Odo's kind of like, "Oh," but it just, you're doing what I was doing, and I wasn't torturing you. Don't you see that?
It's very illustrative of what parents, when they, when you become a parent and you find yourself doing what your parents were doing, and then you go, "Oh, they weren't doing it because they're hating me and they're torturing me or whatever. They're doing this because they love me and they want me to stop, trying to kill myself by jumping off the couch," or
it's the plight of every parent to face their child and say, "Why won't you just listen to me?"
Yeah.
And I'm sure nobody here has subjected themselves to that, but that's actually a quote from STD.
I have never found myself saying to my children, "Am I even speaking English?" I've actually...
Make sure you
don't have
ask
my
him
own,
that
but
he's speaking French.
I may have been known to say that once or twice in my life. "Am I even speaking English to you?"
Also, there's something I keep meaning to say to Monkey, and I keep forgetting the name of it, is the Alvanian spine mites that Odo thinks he's infested with. That's what I think Monkey is infested with.
Albanian spine mites.
That's from that episode.
Yeah.
I will say this one thing. There's two things I like about that episode, where Esri has to bring to life her previous killer host to track the killer. It turns out to be the Vulcan. Spoilers.
Yeah.
The gun that was used, TR-118.
TR-118.
God, I hope I'm wrong about that, and I'm not. Fuck. if I could only harness my memory for useful things, to take a TR-118 rifle and affix it with a microtransporter on the end so you can beam the projectile, like, so you don't need line of sight, and you could shoot people on the other side of walls. You can do stuff you can't do with phasers, for example, and things like that. And no one thought of doing that before. Like, it's even referenced by Odo. He says it's an ingenious weapon. And it's like, yeah, one that would have likely been thought of centuries ago if the tech existed. But it was a good example of the writers taking... It was like the time on DS9 when the Klingon espionage agents beamed the surveillance device into the wall as opposed to putting it in there themselves. It was... I love seeing writers take advantage of the time and place and tech that's available to do different, weird, interesting things. Like, yeah, man, use your imagination. What would you do if you had the idea of a gun that had a transporter on it? That's that's very cool. Interesting idea.
And something I forgot, thank you for bringing it up, back one step to O'Brien. The current incarnation of O'Brien is the other O'Brien. O'Brien died.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. He's wrong O'Brien,
episode.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's wrong O'Brien. Yeah,
he's 6 hour ahead O'Brien, or however many hours it was.
Yeah. was that a TR-116A rifle? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's a TR-116, not 8. Good.
Yeah, it's
I'm glad I didn't get it right.
TR-116A.
Yeah, 116B.
What was also an interesting idea, now that I think about it, it's like, well, how would... It's like they abandoned them for the sake of regenerative phasers that, like, in places where energy dispersion fields were in place, which would be... It made me think about a few things. Like, one, yeah, if you had a determined ground battlefield on a planet, you just wouldn't have transporter inhibitors. You would also have some sort of tech that would disable phasers from working too. You want to stop your enemies from being able to use their weaponry and their transports, if at all possible. And it's like, no, we figured out some way around that with regenerative phasers. And it's, you get this idea that it would be, the battles in the 24th century would often be tech battles of defensive weaponry. We've canceled out your defense, and now, we have a field that disallows your transporter inhibitors. Oh yeah, well, we've got the transporter inhibitor disabler. Like, that would... Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that kind of scenario was constantly going back and forth with the Dominion, which I think added to them as such a great enemy, because they did have those fields that could disable regenerative phasers. They were reduced to using close combat weapons and swords and knives and stuff.
Yeah.
And there were the anti-energy weapons that could disable ships, except for the Romulans, because they didn't use warp reactors. They used singularity, and then they, 6 episodes later, they counteract that. It's really
kind of feel the influence of Frank Herbert there, don't you?
Yeah.
You do, but I also sense the lack of laziness from the writers at the time, because it was a common criticism that writers would just come up with some techno-babble to the point where there was even a word.
Just throw a McMuffin into the works. Yeah.
And then somebody would explain it with a simple metaphor. Someone would go, well, we take a tachyon field and reverse the polarity of the warp field to do a deflector thing. And
TNG was bad about that.
Yeah. And then one person would go, like popping a balloon with a pin. Exactly, Captain. That was always the pattern of discussion. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look at Discovery and the way that they do it, because they just roll that idea like right to hell. It's we're in this problem, and then we will Trek talk. It's like, guys, you completely lost the audience. Nobody even cares.
Down home analogies were no stranger to the TOS too. Look at you, Bones.
Yeah.
He was always analogizing, when something got explained to him. Oh, you mean it's sort of like a, and then here comes the homespun analogy.
Yeah.
Because he was a brilliant doctor.
Drive. Yeah, like an old-fashioned cattle drive.
But the rest of him was kind of like an O'Brien everyday man, kind of.
Yeah.
Very simplistic.
One of the references is, where would somebody get the pattern for a TR-116 rifle? Because those are only available to Starfleet officers. And he says, a frightening idea, isn't it? And they make a reference to maybe an officer. One of the people who accessed the pattern to replicate the rifle was a weapons collector.
Yeah.
And it's like the second time a weapons collector notion was kind of suggested in Star Trek, because Sulu would have been the original one that I can recall, where he gets he finds the old police revolver on the ship. What was the name of that episode?
Kiva
That one
Farashna
I
was
can't remember.
also a weapons collector, wasn't he?
Well, just a collector in general, but yeah, he did collect weapons.
What was the name of it? Blind Press?
I was gonna say I'm not as good with TOS episodes.
It's the episode where they go to the planet where everything's imaginary, where they fight the knight, and Sulu's being chased by a samurai, and oh Christ, Kirk encounters Finnegan. Remember the guy who kept beating the hell out of him?
I do remember the episode, but the name is
Shore Leave, right?
Shore Leave, that's right. It is.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
Shore Leave. And Sulu comes across that revolver and he starts shooting, and he's like, I have nothing like it in my collection. It's an interesting idea. People on a expeditionary naval vessel of sorts, and it's like, and you could have your own private collection of weaponry? That doesn't sound right, but okay. It's a brave new future, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Especially one that goes off, can't be detected by the sensors.
we have
Because an
one
energy
more
weapon gets discharged with
character
sensors.
to cover. We have to cover Dr. Bashir still. And this might be an unpopular opinion from me, but he's my least favorite doctor.
Including Pulaski?
No.
No, Pulaski is the pits.
Not including Pulaski.
Harry, you like Pulaski, right?
I think Hammer had to step away.
Oh, did he? Okay, I thought Hammer and I were like the few people among the few that actually I dug Pulaski.
I don't hate Pulaski.
Yeah,
Because she was-
simply put, yeah, she was not bad. I think she's a bit of a bitch and
Yeah.
not right for the
She's
role, but as a doctor,
too much of a bitch for a doctor.
Well, but I mean, it
That was
wasn't-
such a contrast to all the other doctors.
Well, wasn't Bones? I mean, that's the point. Whenever you see her taking care of a patient, she's
There's a difference
That's like
between
Bones.
irascible and being so mean it makes you crazy.
What about the emergency hologram?
He's irascible. And
yeah, he's lovable.
sarcastic.
He's lovable in his.
I love him. If I'm going to have a procedure done, I'm going to him.
Bones and Doc never outright insulted a commanding officer.
But they all bitch, right?
They bitch, but they never outright insulted a commanding officer the way Pulaski did to Data.
Yeah, but that was an attempt
did she
to
do?
I liked it because she came. In the
can't
first
remember
episode
what
where
you
she
said.
insults him and she calls him an it a few times and stuff like that.
just to get past the bigotry.
Yeah, and she has to accept the idea that he actually is sentient and thinking. And I don't have a problem with the idea of the doctor who's because she is supposed to be Bones on TNG.
Yeah.
That was everybody knows that's the old story. That's the idea, and I think she filled that role well. The honorary rascal on the ship, that Dr. McCoy was. That's what she is, and. So, yeah, Bones probably wouldn't have liked Data very much either, even though they did meet. But
Bashir was a much more important character than
Who was?
Pulaski.
Bashir.
Bashir was, yeah.
But he was on, obviously longer because Pulaski was only there for a season. But I don't know. I just feel like Bashir was too he grew into his character as a serious doctor later on in the series. He understood that this was
I think he came off as more compassionate.
He eventually
To
he did.
to the point of a fault, to the point where it took me out of the episode. It was so bad, like when they crash landed on the planet with the Jem'Hadar that had freed themselves, or the one Jem'Hadar that had freed himself from Ketracel White.
Ketracel White, yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Wide-eyed,
okay, I get it.
idealistic. I mean, you got to remember that is his first assignment out of Starfleet Medical. He came to DS9. That was his first assignment.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked Bashir because of his growth. Yes, there were the entire series had hokey points for each character.
Yeah.
But you get past that, and his growth is really well done even after he witnesses war and the tragedies of war and his responsibility of and thinking that at some point he lost Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Even through that, there's still a bit of him that's that just wide-eyed, hopeful, compassionate boy he started out as, but he's growing into a man as far as a Starfleet officer.
You know, the problem that I have with that, though, is that doctors, when they graduate from medical school, aren't that way. And maybe I've just known too much of them. Having known a few hundred doctors, having worked at Pfizer, doctors are menacing, egotistical, insecure,
arrogant
pricks. Yeah, exactly. Just about 201. And I never bought his wide-eyed innocence. You lose that in medical school. And I couldn't resolve that with what he was supposed to be. And that never really went away. That unbelievability never went away from me.
Right. Let's see that.
I will say that he probably had the biggest arc out of the doctors
Oh God, yes.
in the
Oh, in
series,
terms of his
every
development, yeah, for sure. He needed it.
I mean, that was the bread and butter of DS9's crew. Is we're watching these people grow and change and develop
really
through
good
the
point.
seasons.
That's
We don't get as much of that from any of the other series.
I
would argue
agree.
I would argue maybe the next would be Voyager's crew.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because
but
it's a
Zimmerman's doctor.
It's nothing like the development that you see in the DS9. I agree with you completely. I mean, you look at TOS and to an extent TNG. Those are static characters. They do the same thing episode after episode. They're put in new and interesting situations, and we watch them react. And that's fine. That's a formula that worked. This is a series that's one of the most fundamental differences here, is that in this series the characters have a starting point and they change, and it's it's a real change. It's consistent, and the writers cared enough to keep plotting their characters and to make that development believable. I believe that separates DS9 from every other series. Truly does.
Yeah, because they all have their ups and downs. And if we were to compare two very like roles, Worf and Worf was, like you said, very static for the most part in TNG. The parts where he deviated a lot from that sort of character were the hardest episodes to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like later on, his tryst with Deanna was just, it felt weird.
It did.
However, you throw him into DS9 in the end of beginning of season 3, and it's like, okay, this is the Worf we know and love, and as it's progressing, you're like, wow, there's much more to this character than I ever would have
Worf got
believed.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very
He's one. If I had to pick a favorite from DS9, I'd probably have to pick Worf.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a good call. So there you go.
Realize we've been going at this for an hour and a half.
I can easily believe it.
Hour and
Almost
42
3/4.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we could all sit and talk Trek for days at a
Yeah,
time.
And Pinkalo's come in here a couple times going, aren't you going to eat your dinner?
We're talking Trek, honey. Come back in a few hours.
Where are we on the list? Do we have more people?
I think we've covered everybody, because we talked Worf, we talked Bashir, we talked O'Brien.
Garak.
Yeah, there's plenty of other characters to talk about.
I think
we should probably have a DS9 show.
I think we can all agree, though, as well, DS9, now that you bring up Garak, some of the most interesting bad guys, villains in the show, and characters who skirt that line of villain and hero, like Garak, or Wei Yun, or
Damar.
Damar to a point, but I'm thinking more his CO.
Dukat.
Dukat, sorry.
Dukat,
Yeah. Like
Dukat,
these villains, they're rich, they're developed just as much as the main cast.
Oh yeah.
Again, something you never see.
We limited the series though specifically to the bridge crew.
We did.
And we could, but that might be an idea for a show down the line. Would be favorite episodes from DS9.
Oh yeah. For sure.
I love it.
I mean,
that would be something that would be.
I
Like
never ever thought I'd be in a room with this many nerds, man.
There are many more out there too.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So
W.R. Clausen brings up Nog, one of my favorite heart-tugging episodes.
Nog's a great
For a bunch of reasons, is It's Only a Paper Moon.
Yeah.
It's Only a Paper Moon. Love that.
I mean,
because the one that preceded that, the Battle of
great episode, man.
Oh yeah, AR 558 or 855.
Yeah.
It just like, way to take a character that's just. It's Nog. He's the Ferengi that wants to be in Starfleet, and put it in the hands of good writers. Where it's like, I want to develop this character. I want to make him interesting, and then they turn him into a PTSD war veteran named man. Like, whoa!
Yeah.
Like, talk about run to the end zone.
That took a turn,
especially where he starts off from. Even not the beginning of his character, but the beginning of his Starfleet career.
Yeah.
You don't.
Young ensign who
Again,
idolizes O'Brien.
Bright-eyed, hopeful. Oh my God, Starfleet's the best. Gets a little bit of that taste of the conflict before, but never really gets it until when he develops that PTSD thing, develops that character. Oh, so gorgeous. The writing of this show.
You see
in that conversation with Vic Fontaine.
Oh well, okay. First of all, I'm a big sucker for the Rat Pack Vegas era that he's placed in.
Get out of here!
Get out of here!
I don't believe you. But so of course I'm gonna like Vic Fontaine. I'm gonna like the whole thing, and that he chooses to live in that world because it's an escape from everything and so forth. It was just, and then when it disappears and he screams out like that. I mean, the actor really got Jason Eisenberg or Aaron Eisenberg. He got to really work his chops. He got to show his stuff, and it was awesome. Like it. Whew. And the episode I know Hammer and I have talked about a bunch of times. Valiant, one of my favorite top 10 DS9 episodes.
Yeah.
The arrogant Red Squad get control of a Defiant class vessel and. Look what they do with it. Yes, they're competent, but they're also all the flaws that they have. Captain Waters was a great character.
Even Jake, I love Jake's foreshadowing. Like, you guys are all gonna you guys aren't gonna know what to do.
Trying to drive some of that sense in Nog's head. Hey, take off the blinders.
Yeah,
and I love what's going on around you.
Who's got the whatever, Lieutenant Commander Jenny, let's just I forget her name, but she has such a because as Red Squad, what we do, well, first officers make sure the ship runs smoothly and is intensely loyal to the captain, so that's the way she plays it out, right? And
she reminds me a lot of Admiral
Nechayev.
Yeah, with
not just in look, which was completely coincidental, but just how her character acts and
the bitchiness was fully intact. Yeah. It was. That's why they call her Admiral Bitchev. It's just she certainly thought of that way. But it man, that episode just runs great. It runs to he may have been a great leader. He may have been a great man, but in the end, he was a bad captain. Like what a great line to end it on.
Yeah,
it's. There's nothing about that episode that I don't like.
You have to put in your dues to get those ranks, so you can have the experience to not make stupid mistakes like he did.
Yep.
Yeah,
and Jake coming from one of the, as he says, one of the most accomplished battlefield commanders in Starfleet. I know that this is something he would never ever do.
Yeah,
and it's just
I love the flaw in Captain Waters. I thought the casting was great because they all look like children playing dress up, and they play it that way. Deliberately going over the top with how stern and official they're all being, and they look like little kids in grown-ups' clothes, and that's what's supposed to be happening, and it really works.
And the writer's still showing that there's cracks in each one of those characters.
He's popping pills and shit to stay away.
Popping pills. The chief engineer is having complete mental breakdown. The first officer feels like she's losing control. Yeah.
And it's she can't. I saw you were on the bridge again last night, and he's like, and it's like, well, you haven't been getting a lot of sleep, Captain. She can't bring herself to.
Oh, I love that.
She sees the captain is falling apart, and she can't bring herself to make a point out of it because first officer, fiercely loyal, like and the thing that I think was the underlying notion of the writers, even though it's not said, I think it's pretty clear. Waters didn't want to go back because he would just be a cadet again. He's a captain. He has literally everything he wants.
Yep.
State-of-the-art vessel, and the coolest vessel in Starfleet, in my opinion, the Defiant class. He's fighting the Dominion in a big, glorious war, months behind enemy lines. Nog congratulates him on it. That he even says to Jake, this is one of the greatest stories, possibly of the entire war. Don't interfere with it. Just tell the story. He's talking about himself.
Yep.
Why would he? Oh, well, let's go home because we've recorded the data on this Dominion vessel. We've accomplished the mission. And then convinces them that, no, we have to stay because someone else will have to complete the mission that we started out to do. That was never your fucking mission.
No.
He just doesn't want to go back to being an ensign. I believe that was part of the underlying thing of all of them.
I agree with you.
And it's just great character flaw. Like I said, there's very little about that episode that I don't like. Nog getting seduced by them. Why wouldn't he? He just became chief engineer like that.
Yeah.
And even the beginning of the episode, I had one of those yes moments when, Jake's like, it's the Defiant. And Nog's like, no, this one has a different registry. Its registry is blah, 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 blah. The USS Valiant. And I'm just like, they built more?
Yes, exactly.
They're taking this war seriously, unlike the Borg War, the potential Borg invasion, where I never felt that they really took it seriously.
No, they didn't.
You have one idea, the writers, and I don't know if it happened because of timing or whatever, but it ended up working out really great for that episode. They have this plan. We're going to hit it with this particular photon torpedo that we've got to get really, really close to use, and it's going to cause the struts to be reduced to the consistency of wet pasta, and thus they'll fall apart and the ship will explode. Here's our
say it right, Polly. Wet pasta. There's only she can say it. Wet pasta.
I'm going to go watch that episode after this. By the way,
I just watched it yesterday. It's fucking it's so good.
It doesn't work, and it's like what happened? Did we miss? No, sir. It was a direct hit. It just didn't work, and they don't waste time in the script. I mean, explaining why, because it doesn't matter. You guys just fucked up. How? Why? It doesn't matter. Your arrogant stupidity fucked you up. Like the particular technical reason of why it didn't work doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? It was just he led them off.
You didn't just drop the ball. You dropped the entire fucking court.
Yeah.
It's like, get us out of here along the Z-axis, escape route now. And it's like, that's not going to happen. And
You're done.
Yeah. And you know what I only noticed when I was looking around on Memory Alpha a long time later after having seen the episode a number of times, that the security officer from Red Squad on the Valiant that arrests Jake and puts him in the brig is the same officer that Cisco questions from Red Squad on Earth during that DS9 two-parter where Cisco and Odo were on Earth to help them secure against a Dominion invasion.
Oh, shit.
Remember when Cisco's interrogating the cadet who beamed up to the planetary control system to knock the entire energy network out? That's not only is that the same actor.
Some sloppy work.
Yeah, some damn sloppy work. That's supposed to be the
names
same
and I want them now, cadet.
And he was a cadet from Red Squad that got assigned to the Valiant, and they decided to grab the same actor and put him in there as the same character. And I was like,
awesome.
yeah, I did not realize that it was the same guy. And I'm like, Trek's awesome.
It's nice too, like you were just saying, how they didn't waste time with stuff. They didn't waste time explaining him or kind of developing any more because it would just be a waste.
Yeah. Because
we already have that sort of character's demeanor and everything just from that one interaction with Cisco previously.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing that I think
of Red Squad.
Yeah, the only thing that I think could have been done, the only thing I think that could have been added to that entire episode, but I mean, that's the story moves, so there isn't much room for anything else, right? Would have been a line from that officer saying to Jake, to further display the Red Squad perspective, the arrogance, if you will. Like, because listen, we've been through the training, we've done the things, and him saying, I met your father, because he did. Right? Saying, yeah, I met your father, and he would be like, let's say Jake was behind the field in the brig, and it's like, my father would have never went along with this. But it's like, Mr. Sisko, I met your father, and I think he would be ashamed of your to say, I think he would be ashamed of his son's cowardice, or maybe not that harsh, but something along those lines. Do you not realize?
I think going the other route of feeling betrayed by Sisko, pretending to be a part of that operation, basically putting his personal career in jeopardy because of what he divulged to Sisko. If Sisko and Odo didn't actually win the day, he would have been thrown out of Starfleet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that would have taken it. I mean, not a bad idea. Like in a book where the whole it makes Valiant less of a standalone episode, because people who hadn't known him and recognized him would be, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Whereas if you were to have just said, I met your father, I know your father, and he would have been ashamed. That it's more of a Easter egg for people that recognize the actor, and anyone else would just be like, "Oh, he's a cadet who met Sisko, yay!"
Yeah, you're very right. Yeah,
good point.
Because you got it. Star Trek has always had that level of accessibility to it. Hence the cheesy analogies in TOS, TNG, and beyond.
Except for the Expanse storyline in Enterprise, which is why it's a bad story arc. Thank you, Brandon Braga. Because if you don't know who the Xindi are, you're watching a standalone episode and you're like, we're looking for the Arboreals, and they're on this planet because they caused the attack on Earth. And if you're not following it, you're like, what?
Yeah.
You'll always hear me hate on Brandon Braga as a showrunner, man.
Well,
and then he was banging Jerry Ryan. I mean, I'll admit I'm holding the petty grudge. It's fine.
I hate him now.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know. That's an envy grudge, is what that is.
We're coming up on 7:00, and I am starving.
Okay.
So I need to go and eat my dinner.
Go and eat.
You want to go to the Klingon restaurant?
Well, yeah, because there's.
I haven't had boiled kava legs in weeks.
There's Frappuccino there. Or not Frappuccino, Roctagino. There's Roctagino there. I want Roctagino.
But Kira doesn't like gach. Kira likes boiled kava legs.
With the exception of the octopus legs, that scene where Riker's having the giant feast before transferring over to the other ship, and everything looked delicious, with the exception of the octopus legs.
Have you ever eaten octopus?
I have, but they had them hanging out of a cup in a brown liquid, and it was gross looking. I actually like octopus, but
I like the texture.
Oh, yeah.
I love that scene in Old Boy where he eats that live octopus.
No, notice how Blind Press says she's got to go, and we just keep talking.
All right, go.
Sorry, BP, buddy.
Well, guys, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and thank you to everyone on the panel for joining me. I'm glad we had a good long stream. Kind of makes up for us not having one last week, so I'm kind of glad we had a good long talk.
Yes.
And remember, if you guys want to see some minions, the Harry channel is Keeper tonight at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, and Skep Talk, I believe, is going to be there.
I as well.
And Functional as well. And tomorrow, Irate, who have you got on deck for Ice Cream?
I've got the one and only Whitey, a.k.a. the white YouTuber.
Oh, wow.
And
the white YouTuber?
Yeah, man. And it's
Whitey is back? I thought he had dropped off the planet.
Well, I did Gemini already. But they're doing a podcast now, and through Twitch, and they're going through, the usual podcast,
trials,
SoundCloud, and et cetera.
Yeah,
streaming. Doing just podcast stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and so and it'll be on my Twitch channel because I'm really pissed off at Susan. Yes, because
is that from last night?
Yeah, man. In that movie, I've proven that I put a tweet out there, and just go to the link, and it says that it's public domain. So.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah, we went
Susan is
really good. Yeah, some good Christmas stories there too.
That sucks.
Sora Luna talking about childhood Christmas and stuff. It was kind of cool, man.
Christmas under the couch SQs.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, join Pink Hollow and I for Blind End Special. And I don't know, we don't have any kids with us tonight, so Pink Hollow and I may do some weird stream of something. I don't know. Well, keep an eye on Twitter. We'll let you know.
And next week is Voyager, right?
Yes, next week is Voyager, and since next week will be the 26th, I think unless anyone's got any Christmas plans that day, we can,
Not me.
We can do it.
No.
Scap, are you doing anything?
I'm a man of leisure.
Okay.
Yep.
So next Saturday we're doing Voyager.
Okay.
And thank you all for watching, and I'm gonna go eat my food, which apparently is now ice cold, is what Pink
So
Hollow
Pink
said.
Owl maintains.
Yes.
One word: microwave.
That's right.
Well, it's a pita and French fries, so I don't know how well that'll microwave.
That'll
but-
wave pretty well. Trust me, I've waved everything.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see everybody later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bonsoir, mes amis.